Welcome to the Motor House. It is May of 2024 and we have a new addition to the garage. I have always wanted a 7 and I checked out some other S4s. This S4 was made in New Zealand. It was made under an agreement with Lotus and Steel Brothers to produce S4 7s. And you'll see this does have some damage, but I'll get to that shortly. This car, Colin Chapman made an agreement with Steel Brothers to produce S4, Series 4 7s in New Zealand, and according to some things I've read, it was to avoid some of the tariffs on import cars, and it could be done there. And from things I have read, that Lotus was selling kits for the S4 for Steel Brothers to assemble. Eventually, Colin Chapman decided to divest himself from the 7s altogether and sold the rights to the 7 to Caterham. But they still had an active agreement with Steel Brothers to produce 7s. So Steel Brothers produced them. They did about 100 cars from what I have read. Exact numbers I'm not sure about. But this is a rare car in that it is a prototype. It is basically a standard Series 4, but it has been lengthened. Because this was the first car, and I'm aware that only 5 of them were made, that has the 907 motor. At some point, Lotus was not able to continue supplying the Ford twin cams, but they were able to supply the 907s, which they were continuing to produce for the elites and clots of the day. So this was brought to the United States. Here's a look at the motor, the 907 Lotus engine, and this car was lengthened in order to fit the motor. The other cars that were made after this were not only lengthened but widened, especially in the interior, to fit people that were just a little bit larger in size. As this was the prototype, the first 7 to have the 907 engine, and made in New Zealand, that's the rarity of the car. Focus in on, there's its badge. Lotus is there with Steel Brothers. Now, I did get into an earlier Series 4 that was made by Lotus in Hethel, and the pedal box was so tiny. I barely squeezed into it, but the pedal box was so tiny in that. But this version that the Steel Brothers made, the pedal box has a tremendous amount of room for what it is. My feet don't get stuck with the pedals. Some history of the car. From what I gather, that in California, a previous owner, someone ran a red light and hit the car in the right rear and did a good bit of damage. The fiberglass was hastily repaired in a couple of areas. You'll see the back tub where it cracked all the way up on both sides. There's also another damage down here, and then the suspension and chassis had damage. But some hasty repairs were done, I think, in order to preserve the car so it didn't get any worse. And here is how the car sits. It can be fixed, yes, but that is for a future video for the repairs and restoration of this car, as it should be restored. It should be kept original, as it is the prototype of only 5 made. I currently have the seats out. They're in poor condition. The bases are falling apart. And this, if I hadn't mentioned it, this has about 30,000 miles on it. And I've started doing some preliminary work to it. Future videos will be more in depth about the work that I'm doing. But for now, this is the basic introduction to the car. The engine turns free, but it has to be totally taken apart and the body and chassis fixed and go through a full restoration for that. So, have all the parts, have the lights. One light is damaged from the accident, but I have a replacement coming. They're Aston Martin. And so here's the focus of this car, the 907 engine, and its badge. Yes, you'll see the wiring all a mess. I've been sorting through it. I have found some burnt wires, and I removed a bunch of bypass wires that were installed somewhere in its previous life. And so that's all to be worked out for the future. So yes, I've been sorting the wiring out, trying to make sure what should stay, what should be repaired, and what additions needed to be removed. Next step will be to get the car up on the lift, get a look underneath of it. I've had it up on a jack, but this is a little more. Needs to be checked out. Crash damage evaluation. If you see that round tube right behind the square tube, has a nice bend in it. I'm not sure. I don't know if that was accident or not, or somebody yanking on this, somewhere to yank on this thing. But that's one bad spot. Let's move around here. That diagonal brace, let's see if I can get a better shot from this direction maybe. That diagonal brace there over to the trailing arm pickup, that's damaged. Trailing arm mount, you can see where, let's see if I get my hand here, broke here, ripped out here, and that all came out. Not sure about the rest of this. I wonder if just putting another plate added to it and welding it in would reinforce it better than trying to just patch these small areas. Don't know. Of course, we have the really bad weld up there. You can see the heat mark where it was bent back. And if we go over here, you can see another heat mark. You can see the funky welds there. Another shot of up there. Alright. Cross member. Looks like at the moment it's in pretty good shape, but I won't know till the body comes off of there. This side looks pretty good for that. This is the really bad upper radius arm. See what else we got. You can see the heat mark up here where they tried to bend it all back. And another heat mark there where they tried to bend it back. So, drive shaft, yes, drive shaft is longer than it should be, but the issue is it's not fully seated into the transmission tail. That's where all that room would come from, is right in there. So that's what I can find down here on damage. Another interesting repair, I don't think it's part of the accident or it was done at some point, but that's the brake line to the right rear. It was welded back. I don't know about that. That bothers me a lot. So, engine exhaust side. there are a lot of cracks and some repairs to the exhaust setup. Oh boy, that'll all have to. I think the big problem with that is that there's nothing for any flex. So I'll go just jump out here on this. The whole thing is solid all the way down, so there's no vibration isolation at all, and whatever movement of the motor, the metal is fatiguing, so it needs to have some kind of an expansion, a mesh area to help with that. Front suspension, chassis box section. Actually, at this time, everything up here looks pretty good. Not dented in badly on the bottom. Not anything but surface rust. No mangled suspension arms. So I think we're in good shape there. So moving up into the right side of the engine bay from below. Let's see, this is the clutch line. I have no idea what this was supposed to mount to. Let's see if I can get a better light on that. Can I turn the light on this thing somehow? Yeah, let's try that. Okay, so the mount for the engine mount is in poor shape. Got to figure out that one. But in general, things under here don't look bad. A view of the front chassis box and suspension from the front, looking back on the car, and all this. So far, I haven't spotted anything obvious, but just some surface rust. Yeah, just some surface rust. Nothing looks mangled. So, okay, checking out the front of the motor. Yes, there is a coolant leak from up with the water pump, and in the future, look for more videos on this car. And I'm sorry if anybody has been missing posts from my channel. I haven't had any real work to do on any of the cars, which it's a blessing that the cars are all doing well and not needing major work. So there was no reason to post anything. So